The agenda for a global governance system at work in our world today is largely involved with mass mind control. This mind control is concerned with the loss of personal power, and in fact works to further three main conditions of loss. The first is amnesia, or loss of memory. Second is abulia, which is loss of will. And the third condition is apathy, which is loss of interest in events that are vital to one's overall health and well-being. Modern man, despite his own intellectual vanity, exhibits all three characteristics to an ever-increasing degree, as these psychological conditions are necessary for the occult elite's implementation of a one-world control system. Among the many techniques of mind control utilized is the subversive use of sacred symbolism. On a daily basis, the average person is inundated with a barrage of occult symbolic archetypes. These symbols appear everywhere, from the vivid imagery of advertising to the swift-moving pictures of the silver screen. They are encoded in architecture, can be found on our money, appear in the emblems of the police and military, are integrated into most all corporate logos, and much more. Let's explore the possible motivations for the subversive use of symbolism in our world today, and how such symbolism functions as a technology of psychological warfare, a warfare waged on humanity by an occult-obsessed elite. Symbols are a language, not merely for the conscious mind, but for the entirety of one's being, a method of communication that speaks to the human subconscious. The very word logo, for example, or logos, derives from the Greek word lego and literally means I say. Symbols indeed talk to us, but instead of speaking aloud, they are a language of visual representation. It should be said that the overall concept of symbolism in general could technically be applied to sounds and gestures as well. But for the purpose of this presentation, I am referring specifically to esoteric symbolism and how such is portrayed in a visual, pictorial context. Esoteric symbolism is most commonly described as the mysterious secret imagery of shadowy organizations. But rather than perceiving such as secret, it is more accurate to think of these symbols as being veiled. For esoteric symbols are transmitters of information and influence that move beyond the scope of conscious cognition and in fact penetrate into the deepest recesses of one's inner mindscape, a proverbial Trojan horse of psychic influence. The average person is of course largely illiterate of occult symbolic archetypes, and still, as many mystic philosophers and even modern psychologists have described, these symbols can have quite an influential effect on an unwitting mind. Used subversively, this symbolism becomes an insidious cryptic language, specifically designed to stimulate the lower human appetites, encourage our more destructive and compulsive urges, and activate a host of other inharmonious drives that conflict with an individual's higher conscious nature. Constant exposure to this subliminal persuasion reinforces their effect, and ultimately arrests the spiritual development within individuals, and in turn stifles the evolution of spirit on a species-wide level as well. Archetypal transference is an idea that points to the existence of race memories that are embedded within each of us, past ancestral connections with certain symbolic archetypes, archetypes that were perhaps once sacred to us, the subject of our worship, or even representative of past oppressive forces of which we lived in fear. And these symbols speak to, or hold a kind of energetic resonance with our unconscious mind. Thus, we are subconsciously drawn to them, which particularly makes sense in an advertising context, a reasoning for why certain products and services employ specific symbolic motifs that are subconscious resonators with a desired feeling or state of mind. This could be leveraged to make those goods or services more appealing. The very act of relating our once sacred archetypes with the bland artificiality of modern products, or the unnatural motivations of psychopathic corporations, serves to undermine that which we traditionally upheld as spiritually important, and widens the schism between modern man and his true esoteric roots. Symbols that once communicated deep wisdom and profound spiritual truth are now associated with mindless consumerism and abysmal authoritarian corruption. Man is being disconnected from his past, and symbolism is being used to further his ancestral amnesia. The ruling class possess knowledge of humanity's true history, knowledge that is sequestered and or perverted to hide certain narratives and uphold others. And it is quite feasible that they could evoke deep-seated ancestral emotions within us and manipulate those emotions with specific symbolic archetypes of historic significance. By choosing symbolic motifs that were once associated with the domineering practices of a past powerful authority, the elite could employ the same basic archetypes to bolster their own authoritarian projections. Symbols do not necessarily require a historic context to resonate with the subconscious. In the ages-old practice of dark sorcery, or its modern incarnation, often called chaos magic, sigils are utilized. A sigil is a pictorial representation of a magician's desired outcome, a symbol that has been mystically charged with the willful intent of the creator of that symbol. It is possible that specific intentions could be used by the occult elite to willfully charge a symbol with a specific resonance, one that energetically is a type of fear inducer, an intimidating authority, or even a demonic or malevolent force of which a sigil collectively represented, whereby the inner power of the symbol viewer is compromised due to their own subconscious resonance with it. And this could be done to uphold and reinforce the influence of external authority, that dominating power force that is emblematic of the occult ruling class, in a manufactured abulia that manifests collectively as the control system we see today. This would be a type of visual incantation or spell that is cast pictorially to reinforce the matrix of the mainstream paradigm, having a possible hypnotic effect on the minds of the unaware masses and further binding them to the consensus construct. In these ways, both archetypal transference and black magic sorcery via the occult practice of sigil making aids, or is at least believed by the occult elite to aid, in the science of building paradigms. The ever-increasing pervasive presence of symbols in our world, and how they overwhelmingly pollute the mainstream, shows that symbols are, at the very least, a technology in a wide-ranging arsenal of technologies that are being utilized in the art of mass mind control. It has additionally been suggested that this symbolism is an ego-driven facet of megalomania, whereby the elite fulfill a predatory need to proclaim their dominance, both to each other and the subconscious mindscapes of the masses, in a kind of intimidation tactic via the symbolic branding of everything they do, a method of psychological warfare that can be seen as a type of mockery of their victims. This predatory urge to mock the masses, whom the elite view as inferior, can easily be illustrated, especially when one understands that many symbolic presentations often secretly represent the exact opposite of the consensus perception of a particular symbol's meaning. An excellent example of this can be seen in the symbolic arrangement of the hammer and sickle on the flag of the former Soviet Union. It is commonly understood that the hammer and sickle represent the tools of the working class, a union of urban industry and rural agriculture that together form the idea of a unified working class utopia, a system whereby, in theory, everyone provides for and is accommodated equally by the galvanized societal whole. But understanding the occult meaning behind this image, a meaning that long predates the Soviet Union, provides a completely different picture. The sickle is the tool of Saturn, or Kronos, the demiurge, whereby his sickle was used to sever and divide the unity of earth and heaven, in a detaching of the earthly realm from the realm of the divine. The demiurge Saturn is the architect of the material world, but importantly, only after its separation from the divine. Saturn rules, much as the elite aspire, over the vibratory matter of the material world. The occult elite's obsession with erecting the colossal edifices of civilization, their practicing of stonemasonry and the principles of its philosophy, and their obsession for molding and controlling all of the material world, is carried out in the spirit of adoration for and emulation of the grand architect Saturn. The hammer is the obliterator of matter, the final act of chaotic destruction to then usher in their new order. It is the instrument that deals the death blow to the last remnants of divine will within human beings, in a process by which man devolves or descends further into a post-human world, one seized in total by a tyrannical ruling class, the indefinite overseers of a newly ordered material realm. And so notice the official meaning of the flag is that of a unified utopia, whereas the occult meaning is that of a divided dystopia, the exact opposite of meanings. Considered in this light, it is difficult to see such as anything other than a macabre mockery of the symbol illiterate masses, and a tactic of psychological warfare. In considering the vast amounts of manufactured amnesia, abulia, and apathy within the general populace, a mass hypnosis and conditioning is definitely at work in our world, and symbols have indeed played some part in this. But their true purpose extends beyond the realm of directed psychological warfare, and in fact enters the realm of manufactured consent. A consent harvested by the deliberate revealing of the occult elite's method.